Welcome to Be Happy, Feel Great. I have a very special show today. How many of you have ever thought about reinventing yourself? But you say, I'm too old. Well, you're never too old, okay? We want you to be happy. We want you to feel great. And with me is Nancy Ann Bowe, who just a few years ago went through the whole empty nest syndrome and decided it was time to take care of herself. And she is happy, and she is feeling really good, and we're so happy that she's on the show today.
Thank you, Mike, for having me. It's such a pleasure.
This is great.
I'm honored.
Just such an inspiration to so many people that
Thank you.
I really, when I heard your story, I said, I want you to be on Be Happy, Feel Great.
And I wanted to be. I've watched your shows. They're great. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, let's jump right in, okay? A few years ago, you raised 3 sons?
Yes.
3 sons. You worked very hard, put them through college. You did everything a good mom would do for your kids.
Oh, yeah.
But you felt there was something missing, right?
Well, because I felt 2 were, I had 3 at home, and then before I knew it, I had 1 away at college in Syracuse, Robert, and then my David was leaving to go to SUNY Purchase. And I still had 1 at home, and he was finishing up Suffolk Community College. So I really felt the sense of the birds were leaving the nest, and now what do I do? So.
Absolutely. And I think there's a point in time where parents all go through that.
Right.
And especially with 3 boys, I know yourself, you come from a large family.
Yes.
And a very artsy family, right?
Yes.
You, your sisters, your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take it back a little bit. You got out of high school, your job was not in the art fields, right? You were doing something else when you first got into the job market.
Back in the day when I graduated, it wasn't a time, it was the late 70s. You weren't really encouraged to go to college. You either got married or you went to work. My sister Susie took me around Riverhead to all the big offices to apply for a job. And I started with the title insurance company.
Okay.
And so that's where I ended up in real estate and title insurance.
So you were in real estate, title insurance. So you worked with that, you got your real estate license, right? You were selling real estate.
Yes.
Raising a family, having the 3 boys, still part-time working.
Right.
But you, with your passion, that really wasn't it from what you were telling me, right?
I really didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
that was a
we all have
field,
that problem,
And that was a field that I kind of was put into, and it is a terrific field. I do love it, but it wasn't really what I felt like I was made to do. It didn't come from my soul, I guess you could say, and I just felt that there was something that I needed to do for the rest of my life, or however long that is.
Yeah, it's all part
something
of growing
I enjoy.
up, trying to figure out what you're going to do and
Exactly.
everything.
Yes. So that's how that all began,
Okay, so your last of your 3 sons, he's away to college, and it was around that time that you said, okay, it's time to reinvent myself.
I was sitting on my deck, having a cup of coffee. It was early morning. I was kind of
Sounds good already.
I know, right? I was just sitting there kind of like pondering, okay, I don't have a college degree. My sons are grown. They really don't need me much anymore. Of course, they'll always need me, but not in the same way of, caring for them. I just realized, what do I want to do with my life? I hadn't even noticed I had 3 rows of Sharon plants with all these bees and butterflies, but I was so deep in my thoughts of, I don't have a college degree, what am I going to do, or am I going to go for a job? Real estate market isn't flourishing right now, as you know, it's picking up a little.
It has its ups and downs.
Right.
And,
and all of a sudden, I saw a butterfly just flutter right past me, and I took notice of it and went and got I had a little point-and-shoot camera at the time.
Okay.
So I went and I got my camera. Next thing I knew, I was like trying to take little macro shots of it and uploading it onto my computer. Next thing I knew, I got more and more involved in it, and I would get a bigger camera, and it just like my photography took off from that point.
From that point on, so the Rose
Rose of
of
Sharon,
Sharon, the bees, the butterflies.
butterflies.
So nature.
Yes.
Nature is important in your photography today.
Right, very important.
And you went from that point and shoot camera a few years ago to a professional photographer,
Right.
a web designer, and a graphic designer. So you
Yes.
really perfected the computer skills, the different programs,
Right.
and I'm sure your equipment grew a little bit with your own
Yes.
expertise.
Started with the point and shoot, and now I have my Canon and with all my different lenses and my macro lens, and so it really just, that's how it began, very simply, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
My interest was in web design, and so I started really thinking, I don't have a college degree. I'm pretty good at making websites. So I ended up enrolling in Briarcliff College for web design.
Really? Wow. And that was, what, 3.5, 4 years ago?
3.5 years ago.
3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it had to be tough.
It was a challenge. I mean, it was a little frightening. I had to take all the liberal arts. I had to take the math, and gosh, it's been years since I've done math.
Yeah.
I had to do all the English, the science, everything. But, I had set my mind to it. It was my goal, and I was determined. And then 3.5 years later, I walked in May with my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, Briarcliff College in Patchogue, and I was class valedictorian. So it's never too late to reinvent yourself, Mike.
Not at all. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's
Can I show my-
let's hold this up,
Okay.
Nancy. It was like
Thank you.
I've watched you grow. Look at that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And just your work has been beautiful. You've worked so hard. I've seen it. I've seen your work. I've had an opportunity because you're out there on social media. I've seen your stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and everything else that you use. And I've admired it, and I've watched you work, and you're out there all the time. And to actually see and see your postings and how hard that you worked and all the awards that you were winning.
Yes.
And we talked shortly after you were, tell us what it was like that day. How did you find out about becoming the valedictorian?
Oh my goodness, it was, I really hadn't expected it. I knew I worked hard, and I knew I had the grades, but my goal was really basically just, obtaining my degree and, going out and working in the field, and all excited about my new, career. And I received a call from the college saying that I had been nominated for valedictorian. I couldn't believe it. It was, who would have thought, at my age, going back to school,
Yeah.
And so it goes to show you that anything is possible if you set your mind to it and work really hard. I had to submit a bio with a little story, and about a week later, I received a FedEx envelope from the president of the college telling me that I was the new valedictorian of Briarcliff College for 2014. So I walked in May and gave my speech, and it was just incredible. I was proud for myself, but all of my classmates and all of the graduates, it was
It's
really
just,
a good day.
It really, really is. And it's just a wonderful, anybody that's just tuning in now, my guest is Nancy Ann Bowe, and she's a graphic designer. When the empty nest came after raising 3 sons and getting them through college, she decided that it's time for mom to go back to school. And her interest at the time was web design and photography. She started taking interest, I guess, the photography to go with the web design, right? You have to take pictures to put it on the web.
Yes, absolutely.
But then you captured at the, in your backyard the bees and the pollination that was taking place and all that stuff.
Right.
And let's jump ahead now. You got this beautiful picture next to you.
Thank you. As you can see, I really love doing macro photography, so I like to do a lot of close-ups so you could really see, the subject. And the honeybees are one of my favorite subjects of all time. I'm kind of known as the bee lady around, Briarcliff College and all my friends and family. So yes, I like to get in close and show the hard work these little bees do to pollinate our food, and
Yeah, and you took that interest, and now you're actually working on a senior project, right? Or your final
Yes.
project, is that what it would be called?
Yes,
Where
it's
you're
like
working on a
your
book?
thesis. It's a senior project or like a capstone course. It's like the highest course that you take in graphic design.
Okay.
And I work with a mentor who helps me to check my progress along the way. It's a 16-week course. It's broken into 2 semesters, 8 weeks and 8 weeks. I am going to be producing, doing the photography, the writing, a book that we'd like to have published. And of course, the topic is going to be honeybees, my favorite subject, and the crisis that there is today with the colony collapse disorder. All across the world, honeybees have been, and other pollinators have been dying. And they're not quite sure. There's a lot of research that's going on.
There's a lot with all the chemicals that are being used out there.
Right.
And
They really don't know. They haven't
herbicides and
pinpointed
all
the
that.
exact cause. And I didn't realize it until I started photographing the bees. I don't know if we could show this, but I didn't realize that they were in trouble until I started doing the photography, and then I was like looking them up and Googling, and then one thing led to another. So the book will be about colony collapse disorder. I'm going out in the field, and I'll be wearing my, the bee equipment and taking shots of the honeybees. And
I think we have a picture of that too, we'll be able to show. But
Okay.
going back to this for a minute.
yes,
This was taken, this is one of your photos that you took, and it looks like lavender
yes, this is at the beautiful Lavender Farm out on the North Fork.
Oh, okay, East Marion, I believe.
Yes,
out
East
around there.
Marion.
Oh, wow.
It's wonderful. You have to get out there, but the fields are just loaded with lavender. And if the flower is so tiny, it's like really small. But I sit right down in the lavender with the bees, like right up to them with my macro lens. And this is one of my favorite pictures. Actually, you talk about social networking. This picture has traveled and gone all over France. And
Wow.
around the world. This picture's, a lot of people like it
Yeah,
because,
well, the detail is just unbelievable too.
and it looks like he's just inhaling that scent from the lavender, like he's just
right
loving that
there.
lavender as much as we do,
And I guess lavender's pretty popular in France too,
Oh,
right?
yes,
France
the
and
French
Italy
lavender.
and
Right.
the whole European area, so I
Yeah.
can see why they appreciate it. But, we see these bees flying around,
Right.
but I don't think I ever saw such detail and really how intricate everything is.
Well, that's one thing I love. A lot of people, all they think of with bees is that they're afraid of them, they're going to sting them. And there are bees that, are a little like that. But the honeybees, they're basically just, they work hard for us. They provide us with a third of our food supply. They pollinate
yeah,
a third
yeah.
of our food supply.
Well, I know people that they raise bees because they do raise flowers on their farms on the North Fork.
Right.
And in turn, because they're raising the bees, now they produce honey.
Yes.
And that's, they're,
It's like they're working with each
everybody's
other.
working together and everybody
Yes,
loves it. So
right.
it
It's
really
great.
is, and it's wonderful that you're really involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems like it could be just a nice thing to have an opportunity of giving back by
Well, the
being
book is
involved in
not
that.
just about showcasing my photography, but it's really to bring a public awareness, to give back and help the public to understand that, the honeybees, the bumblebees, the butterflies, be more aware of maybe going green and not using, pesticides. And I'll, offer ways that you can help to become aware and how you can help the situation. So I think
Well,
it'll be
that's great.
interesting.
And as we're talking, people are seeing actually you in your uniform,
Right?
or that protective stuff while you were taking pictures of the bees.
Yes, it was
and-
wonderful. They were swarming, and someone
Well,
called me, and I went down, and they were just, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. They were swarming on the queen, and they were up in a pine tree. And the funny thing is I had flip-flops on. I had the protective thing on, but I really didn't fear them at all because they're really just out to work hard and do their thing. They're not really interested. As long as you leave them alone and you're, but yes, I'll be doing more of that
You'll
over
be
the
doing
summer.
more of that? That is so
Yes.
exciting. And,
Yeah.
in the photos, we also saw, I guess, some of your artwork, right? Were those pastels? Or,
Yes. I,
beautiful. The
at Briarcliff,
butterfly and the another bee, of course.
I want to tell you a little something about that. Those were done from my photography. If you looked at the photograph that I took, and then you looked at my pastel, they're pretty much identical. I did the pastel, rendered the pastel from my photograph. So the one, the pink that looks like it's sitting on a flower, that was an actual photograph I did with my finger in pastels. And then took a photograph of it. And that's what's up on my website. You could see the various different ones, and I think that's the ones they put up. There's actually a photograph of my pastel of my photograph. So.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Well, you confused us a little bit with
Sorry.
that, but it's all beautiful.
All right, thank you.
And it's interesting how you have like your own niche and specialty, and I could just tell the passion that you have for going out there and,
Yes.
do you own that actual suit that you were wearing there?
Oh,
or is
no, that was a
that
lovely woman that she had, she's a beekeeper in East Merches, and she was lovely enough to tell me to put, I was there with nothing on, and I had no problems with that. But when you're that involved with a swarm like that, they're not out to hurt you, but they can get in your eyes and stuff, and I have the camera, so I
Sure,
can't
you're
really
looking for
see
the
them.
shots,
But,
yeah.
everything was covered except for my hands and my feet. And it was a little hard to do photography with that mask on
Yeah,
and capture
yeah.
the pictures, but they'll be in my book. I got quite a few that came out rather well, so.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Thank
Now, do you have any place that people could see your work?
Yes, I have a website. It's nancyanndesign.com.
NancyAnnDesign.com. Okay.
I'm also on LinkedIn, but I have Clyde Lady 2 is on YouTube, and I have my photographs set to music. So find
Okay,
me
so
there.
from
But that's all on my website.
On your
If they go to
website, they
Nancy Ann
could
Design,
link to YouTube
Right,
and
there's-
everything else.
all the links are there.
NancyAnnDesign.com.
right.
And they could see the photos that we're showing on the show today and probably a lot more, right?
Yes, yes.
I know you brought a beautiful portfolio with you, and we have lots of pictures here.
Right.
But let's save some of that, because if this is on the
Yes,
website,
they
let's let the
can-
people take a look there. And,
Exactly.
just gorgeous work and very, very interesting.
Thank you.
I don't think you had this kind of passion when you were selling real estate, did you?
I don't think so. I mean, I love people, not just nature.
Yeah, okay.
So I am kind of a people person. But this is different. This is creating from within, hearing what people are looking for, and trying to come up with a design that'll suit, that represents them, It's very rewarding. And I find it very relaxing because I do all my work on the computer with Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign,
Okay.
which I was trained at Briarcliff for.
Wow.
And I just find it something I could do from home on my laptop and just design. And
It's a different world out there.
It is a different
You
world.
have a laptop, but you develop the skills. And it's
Right.
wonderful to have schools like Briarcliff that could actually have people learn and have specific skills when they leave there to pursue
Yes.
their interest and their careers. It's
I have to
great.
say it was
You're-
bittersweet graduating because I loved my 3.5 years there. I did 4 years and 3.5 because I went right through the summer. But it's just the greatest place to learn and grow together and support, a lot of support, so. It was a good decision, life's all about choices, Mike, and sometimes, we make bad choices and, other times we just, if you think things through, you can make great decisions and
well, and
turn
you-
your life around,
And you mentioned before having goals and working towards those goals.
Yes.
And you really, not only did you do it, but you excelled at it. So it's just so exciting, to see this stuff and see how enthused that you are, with your work and how beautiful it is. And we're talking about like photographs, we're talking about your artwork. Now, with your graphic design, I saw
Yes.
some logos recently that you've been working on.
Yes.
And I think we might even have a couple of photos of a logo that you did for designated driver.
Yes.
And it's the North Fork designated driver. It's up on the screen right now, and it's just a great logo with the hand passing the keys, with the
Right.
great colors that represent
grapes.
the grapes and the wineries.
Yes.
And I know it's a company that's going to be providing a well-needed service
yes.
for the North Fork with all the drinking and driving that's out there.
Well, that subject is very near and dear to my heart, Mike, because first of all, I was very happy to be involved in designing the logo for this company because something I said in my speech at Valedictorian, not to put a damper on the ceremony, but right after I went to work, a couple years later, my mother was killed by a drunk driver, and that was back in 1980. So yes, if anything, if you're gonna, I had told my class in my speech, if you're going to celebrate, please, enjoy yourself, but have a designated driver. And I didn't want to bring it up to put a damper on the wonderful, commencement ceremony.
No, that was.
But, we have to be
what
aware
a message that you were able to say. First of all, what an
Yes.
awful, awful thing that you had to experience.
It was shocking,
I know that you had told me about it prior to you coming on the show today, and I just admire that you were able to share that with 2,000 people in the audience.
Yes.
2,000
Yes.
people.
And now on YouTube.
And YouTube with it. And I think we have a picture of you actually as valedictorian giving the speech. I don't have the
Okay.
YouTube. They'll have to go to your website. But,
Yes.
there you are up on the screen right now. And
Right.
that was your message for
Yes.
everybody there.
And I had a big bee pin on to represent, not just my photography and love of bees, but my mother that was killed. Her name was Beatrice, and she used to say that she was the queen bee, and she was the baby bee because she was the 14th of 14 children. And so I've had a love. She used to wear bee pins, and she'd have little bee things around the house. So I guess that's where my love began with the bees, But it's funny how things end up coming around where, that kind of brought out my creativity when I noticed the butterfly and the bees. And next thing I knew, I earned my degree, and now I'm designing. So
Yeah, it's like Mom was with you
Yeah.
and guiding you in the right
Exactly.
direction there, and especially
plus-
the symbolism of the bees and the
bee.
butterflies.
you can usually
and-
find a little bee somewhere, in my design, but it's not all bees and not all nature. I do all kinds of designs for, various different companies, and,
Oh,
So.
just beautiful work, and it's a compliment to you and what you were able to do, and inspiration for anybody watching the show that has said, "Gee, I feel stuck.
right.
This
never
isn't
stuck.
me. I'm stuck. I'm too old. And what would you say to them?
Well, I have to say, on that note, when I first enrolled, not everyone, my family and best friends have always supported me, but I've had people say to me, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that? It's going to be hard for you. You've been out of high school for like decades. Why would you want to do that to yourself?" And my answer is just that, why not? It's something that I want to do. It's never too late to reinvent yourself. Just go
Absolutely.
for it. And I went for it, and that's, here I am. So if
Here
I
you are.
can do
Look at
it,
that. You're on TV now. You're been
Right.
many job opportunities are now starting to come your way. I know you
Right.
talked a little bit about a few that just this week you went to some
Yes.
interviews.
right,
and
been getting calls and going on
getting
interviews.
calls and
and
just trying to pick that right one
Right.
that's the right
Yes.
chemistry and you'll enjoy doing.
Where I can create and enjoy going to work every day. But again, I would just tell people, just please go and do it. But be determined. People also said to me, "Well, you're so smart. How did you get honors?" No, I just worked really hard. I studied. I made 3x5 cards. It didn't come easily. I had to really work hard.
Plus, you were freelancing.
Yes.
right? So not
Right.
only are you doing your projects, your work, but you're designing logos like we
Right.
saw before. You're doing
Exactly.
websites for people, you're doing photography for
Photography.
jobs that you have to do.
Yes.
You did all types of
And I was
photography, right?
taking like, oh yeah, all kinds, like christenings and babies' birthdays.
Baby, that's hard. Getting the
Yeah.
little kids to
Oh,
smile.
it's a lot of
and-
fun though.
and
You have to
everything.
really kind of have roller skates on. And the last baby's birthday party I did, I was like sore for 2 days of just chasing around the little ones, but I love it, you know.
You're right,
And then
right,
you're
right.
giving them their memories, you know. Digital age nowadays, you can give them hundreds of pictures because you're not spending money on film or anything. And then they appreciate it, and then they'll refer you to somebody else, you know.
Right.
But it's all
right.
about making memories, and you know,
Well,
it's great.
you do beautiful work, and tell us more about this book that you're going to be doing. You know,
Okay.
Where are you with that? And I know you called
Okay.
it your senior
It's my senior project.
project.
Yes,
Okay.
my big
is
thesis.
there a like a deadline for it? Is there a goal
By the end
that
of
you have to
August.
try to finish?
By the end of August.
The end of August?
Yes.
Oh, soon?
So
Wow.
I'm stepping it up big time.
Oh, we
I'm
got to
running
finish
around-
up. We got to finish this interview so you can go
The
out
bees,
and work on
the crops are coming up in the lavender farm, Lavender by the Bay. The crops are coming up, so I'm going to be running out there and getting some more shots.
Okay.
It's pretty much, I've put it together kind of in InDesign, and I'm still working on the writing and adding more photographs, but I think I could do it. It's like it's the last stretch. It's the marathon. I'm almost at that finish line, Mike, and I'm going to make it. Yeah.
Well, we are in the marathon, and speaking of finish lines, we're
Yes.
finishing up our show here.
Wow, that was quick.
And so much great stuff. When you have great stuff, it just,
Right.
you know, you just have so much enthusiasm for it. But anyway, we're here with Nancy Ann Bowe today, who is just an inspiration for so many people out there. And if you would like to see more of her work, you could go to her website. Nancy Ann, what is that website again?
It's nancyanndesign.com.
Okay, and would they be able to hear about your new book when the book is released? Would you be able to
Yes, you'll be able
give
to
more information on that and everything?
Absolutely.
And possibly where it's available out on the east end of Long Island or any other place.
Yes.
And Nancy, it was a pleasure. Thank you
so
so much for
Mike.
being
I really
here today. It
appreciate
was
you having
great.
me. Thank
Oh,
you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. It was great.
Yep.